Hey, and welcome to our webinar tonight, Intro to Digital Scrapbooking with Melissa Shannon. I'm Debbie Hodge from getitscrap.com, where I help people with their scrapbook layout design and storytelling, but I never focus on specific techniques like how to do digital scrapbooking. And we have a real mix at Get It Scrapped of digital and paper scrapbookers. But I know more and more and more every month I'm hearing from people who just kind of want to know about digital. Some of them want to go digital, full blown, and some of them just want to be able to do it a little bit. So Melissa Shannon, who's here with me, is the owner of Digital Scrapbook HQ, and I'll bring her website up. She's from Australia. She's got, how many kids do you have, Melissa, right now?
I've got four, yeah.
Four that are born. So, and Melissa and I have known each other for a long time in the whole scrapbook biz. We were just sitting on a webinar talking many years ago as she nursed a baby, and yeah, I was sitting in the same exact chair. So this is Melissa. Let me show you her website. And Melissa, what do you want to tell us about Digital Scrapbook HQ and what you do?
So since 2011, I think it is now. Anyway, for the last several years, I've been teaching digital scrapbooking online. Oh, that is out of date, but just scroll down a bit there. Yeah, so in the last few years since I set up Digital Scrapbooking at HQ, it just grew out of my love of teaching and my love of digital scrapbooking, and I teach people how to capture their memories and tell their stories through photos and words in Photoshop Elements. I also have a bit of background in some other programs too, but I love and I recommend and I teach mostly in Photoshop Elements. And so on my website you'll find lots of tutorials and classes that will help you get started and learn new techniques about digital scrapbooking. So that's what we do here.
That's awesome.
At
All right.
Digital Scrapbooking HQ.
So I'm going to turn the controls over to you. I'm going to turn off my webcam, make you the presenter, and let you take it away. And it's great to see everybody's here and finding the question box and ready to learn with Melissa. So let's see. All right, I am sending you the baton.
Okay. Okay.
Did you get it? There we go.
Yes, I did. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, everyone. I'm super excited to be teaching you about one of my favorite things, which is digital scrapbooking. So I've been scrapbooking myself in the modern style, strangely enough introduced to it by Creative Memories, as a lot of people are, since 2003, and I've been digi scrapping since 2007 now, so that's 10 years, which is a long time. So one of my biggest achievements, apart from having 4 children, is actually having 4 completed baby books, which the latest one I just got printed off last month for my little boy Matthew. And I'm really excited about how digital scrapbooking has worked in with my life, and I love sharing it with you. So digital scrapbooking is just like paper scrapbooking. It's photos, words and pretty stuff, and we put it all together in Photoshop Elements. So on my screen here I've got one of my favorite simple scrapbook pages, and I'll just show you the little elements that make up the page. It's much like paper scrapbooking in that you have different layers of things that you put together on your page. So here we've got our photo, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn the things on and off so you can see no photo, photo. And this is one of the beautiful things about digital scrapbooking with Photoshop Elements. Everything's in separate layers and we put it all together to make a page. So I've got my little title up here, which is some text, and these little candy lollies letters make up our title. Then we've got our fun background heart paper. Again, easy, you can see that switching on and off. That's all one piece of paper hiding behind the photo. And then over here, we've got a little bit of journaling where I tell the story about the photo. And I can just double click on that and edit my journaling just as you would any kind of text in Word or in an email. And then the essentials are covered, and you can have a little bit of fun by adding these pre-made embellishments, just like you would buying stickers or other kinds of little buttons, and you just drag them on to your scrapbook page and add a little bit of embellishment and the fun stuff, the pretty stuff. So one thing that a lot of people wonder about when they first start scrapbooking is a concept called layers. Now, layers was introduced by Photoshop as a way to be able to put art and photo editing together so that you can change it later. So it's what we call non-destructive editing. But I like to think about it in a similar way to building up a paper scrapbook page, or if you're not familiar with that, like hands up, who remembers overhead projectors? Something that a lot of the millennials have probably never seen. But I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with overhead projectors and what they are. You'd put a clear transparency on the screen, and then you'd have your letters, any images, and if you're at uni or college or whatever, your professor or your lecturer would probably grab a overhead projector pen and they'd been scribbling on the top, or they might add another layer of transparency. And that's how I like to think about the layers in Photoshop. We've got all these little pieces that we're going to put on our overhead projector, starting at the very bottom with our paper, and then we just drag on our photo, embellishments, journaling, all that kind of stuff. So as you can see here, I'm just turning on the layers and they're adding to our little projector. So I just, do you want to just let me know if you've got any questions about that? Does that make sense? It's much the same as building up a page as you would a physical scrapbook page or overhead projector kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense for you.
The first question we had was, is there a specific size that you design this? Which is complicated, right?
So to keep it simple, I tend to go with a standard scrapbook page size. So that's 12 by 12 inches, and it's huge when you print it off like this. Oh, bigger than my head. I don't know if you can actually see that. There's a page I've printed earlier. But then I also print things at 8 by 8 inches, which is what I've got 14 of these little books now of completed pages. So for me, the flexibility of designing at the larger size means I can shrink it down to make it more of a smaller, book that's a bit more standard. So in Photoshop Elements, they've got settings when you create a new file that you can choose scrapbooking and choose 12 by 12 inch, and it'll automatically set it up so it's great resolution for printing or for printing in a photo book or as a photograph.
That's great.
So the way we're going,
I want to show I've got a couple of people who are confused about how to see your layout. So I'm going to show you on my tablet. If you're on a tablet or a computer, see I've got Melissa's webcam up top, and I've got her page, her screen down below. And this is beyond any computer, and there's a bar through the middle. You can drag that to make her, make the monitor, make the webcam smaller and make the image bigger. See how I did that? So you'll have to look around on your computer and see how to do that. And then we've got other questions about, you know, how do you get your essentials onto the layers, and where and how do those goodies come from, and how do you store them? So I think those are questions we'll save. Those are, right? We'll save those for a little later.
Yeah, and we'll cover some of those things as we go through. So for now, we're just looking at the elements that we use to make up the page. And yeah, and so in Photoshop Elements, as well as our layers, through all these little icons on the right-hand side of my screen. On the left-hand side of my screen, I've got some tools, and just like in the shed, you might use a drill to make a hole or a hammer to hammer in a nail, or in your kitchen, you might use a mixer or an oven, or a variety of other tools, spatulas, whatever. In Photoshop Elements, we have tools, and today we're really going to be keeping it simple. I'm going to be creating a page for you with just using the Move tool, which allows you to move things on your page. So here we go. I'm just picking up my little button here and moving it, and the Type tool, which we'll use to add some text to our page. So of course the program's got a dozen more tools, and you can use some of those for photo editing and all that kind of thing. But to show you the basics, and to be honest, I create a lot of pages just using those two tools, especially when I'm working with a template that helps me get started. So I am going to take you through today one of the Scrapbook templates that Debbie's provided in the Get It Scrapped membership. There's a great library of templates, and today, if you're following along at home, I think it's a great idea to just watch and don't try to scrap along with us today. Just have a look at the concepts. You can watch. If you're a member, you'll have access to this for later, and of course, you know, there'll be a replay for those of you who've registered. So just take it in and take a note of questions you might have, pop them in the question box, and we'll get to them later throughout the presentation. So I'm just going to be showing you the basic concepts on how we make a page. So the very first thing you'll probably want when you start scrapbooking is you start up Photoshop Elements. Now I use and recommend Photoshop Elements. There's a dozen different programs you could use. I love Photoshop Elements. I'm a big fan, and I'm part of the beta testing team. So if you ever find a bug in Photoshop Elements, you know, tell me, and I'll tell Adobe and maybe they'll fix it. So when you first start Photoshop Elements, you'll see this screen come up, and it says Photo Editor, Organizer, and Video Editor. And when you're wanting to create a scrapbook page, you want to click on the Photo Editor. I do use and have lots of classes on the Organizer at my site. Digi Scrap HQ/Organize is a good place to go for those. But for today, all you need to worry about is the Photo Editor. So when you first open the Photo Editor, there'll be a blank screen, and you can just click on the large open button to find the files that you want. For today, I've downloaded one of Debbie's sketch templates, and I've just opened it up.
And I'll give everybody the link to this when we get toward the end, and I'll also put the link with the replay.
Super, super. So this is a page template which has all the things that we want to use to help us create this page. And then what I'm going to add to this page are my own photos and some digital scrapbook supplies. So digital scrapbook supplies are sold online at various different shops. There's also some supplies within Photoshop Elements, but I'll be using ones I've downloaded today. So the kit I'm using is Joie de Vivre by Kristin Cronin-Barrow, and that's from sweetshopdesigns.com, and Debbie, I might send you a link to that. There's a variety of different kits. There's thousands and thousands of different kits, so it doesn't really matter which supplies you use, but you can start off with any kind of free kit. We've even included in the class my digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners class, I've actually got a kit, and so you can follow along exactly using the same supplies. But the principle's the same, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we're working with a template is just go to File, Save As. And we're going to save our scrapbook page as a Photoshop document, and that's the way that we are able to come back later and edit it. So I'm just going to click Save. And now the original template is always there if we ever want to use it again. And then the next thing I generally do is open up my photos. So I'm just using a few photos from Lucy's birthday, her 2nd birthday last year. And I'm going to go back to my template, and in my photo bin here, I'm just going to click on the little icon of the photo and drag it right up onto my page. And let go. And then, look at that, it's appeared on my page. So, just a bit laggy here. So now I'm using my move tool, which is this little one in the top left here with the little arrow, and I can move this layer around wherever I want. Now, I hope you're all paying attention because this is the most important thing I'm going to teach you today. How to get those little photos in to the spot they should be. Now I'm going to drag it on top of this grey area that I want for my photo. And I'm going to select the photo, making sure it's highlighted here in the Layers panel. I'm going to go up to Layer and then Create Clipping Mask. I don't know if you just saw that, but the parts of the photo that are bigger than that grey area, they're now gone. They're not really gone, they're just hiding. So now the great thing about Photoshop Elements is I can just use my mouse again and move this photo around until it's how I like it. So I'm just going to, there's this Lucy and Grandma who made Lucy's little handmade doll. I'm going to just move it around till I like how that looks. Yep, looking good.
And what was the command for that?
Okay, so this is what we call clipping. So we're going to go to, the command is create clipping mask. So I'm going to show you this another couple of times. I love this technique because it makes it really easy to get our photos in place. So let's try it with another one. We've got this cake photo. So I'm going to go back to my template. I'm going to scroll down in my photo bin and I'm going to click and drag the cake up onto this grey area where I want it to be. It's appeared on the screen. It always comes in the middle of your screen, so don't stress, you just move it around. And then Layer, Create Clipping Mask. Now in Photoshop and Photoshop Elements 15 and newer, the shortcut is Control-Alt-G or Command-Option-G on a Mac. In earlier versions of Photoshop Elements, it's Command-G on a Mac or Control-G. So don't worry about the shortcuts if you're new. You can just get to it from the Layer menu and it says Create or Release Clipping Mask. Release Clipping Mask just makes it back to its own separate layer again. So we're just hiding the edges of our photo. Let's try that one more time. I've got one more photo to add. I'm going to move so I can see where my photo needs to go in this grey area. And then in my photo bin, it's showing everything I've got open. So I've opened up 3 photos here, just straight from my camera as a JPEG file. And I'll just click, drag that little icon up to this grey area and let go. And it comes in again for me. It's hiding a little bit, but I'll move it up to where I want it to go. And then create the clipping mask, Layer, Create Clipping Mask. Now this technique of creating a clipping mask is what we're going to be doing the whole time to create this page, and it's once you get the hang of that, it's going to be really quick to create the files. Now I'm just going to save my work. Make sure you save your work every few minutes. So it's looking great so far. I've got 3 photos in, and then I'm going to start working with my scrapbook supplies. Now scrapbook supplies usually come as a bundled zip file, and I've got a full tutorial on how to unzip them and use them, but just know that you open them up once you've downloaded them, and inside will be JPEG files for papers and PNG files for little embellishments. You don't need to worry too much about those file formats. I just thought I'd let you know what they are so you're familiar with them.
So we have a lot of questions about layers, or a couple questions about layers, and I think it's interesting. So can you just, with your, some people aren't seeing where the layers are, and again, that was like that stack of transparencies that you talked about. And versus when you're, so when she's looking at this layout, there's this, show them with this layout all those layers versus a product how there's only one layer kind of thing.
Okay, sure. So if you look on the right hand side of my screen, I've got this very long list of items. There's these thumbnails and a name. So for example, button here, I'll turn it on and off. So there's 1, 2, 3, oh, there's probably like 50 maybe. Different layers, maybe less. And then in the scrapbook product, say this little cute button we'll put in later, there's just the one layer.
So is that making sense?
So the layers, the layers are what allows us to have all those different pieces. So if you had a scrapbook page, you would literally be sticking 3 photos onto your scrapbook layout. In this case, in the digital, I've got 3 different photo layers already. So I think you'll see more about layers and clipping as I go through to add the papers. So I might do that next.
Thanks, Melissa.
So we've got this kind of brownish background, and I wanted it to look a bit fun, a little bit of confetti look. So I've opened this cute bokeh type of pattern paper here, and I'm going to just, again, the same thing in my photo bin. I've got this pink little thumbnail at the bottom. I'm just simply going to drag it up and let go of it once I'm over that brown background. And in this case, I don't need to do anything, no clipping, nothing, just it's there, and it's exactly how it needs to be.
And so notice how, and Melissa was like, you were pointing to that layer that you wanted it to, you targeted that layer. So she went over to her layers and picked that layer before she dragged it in. Because if you had if you had picked like the title and dragged it in, it would be covering everything up.
Yeah. Well, they've changed that in Photoshop Elements 15, but yes, yes, you're right. So yeah, now it just does whatever you have your mouse over, but I'll show what Debbie's talking about because a lot of people might have older versions. So say here, this little polka dot spot layer in the background behind the journaling, I want to change that to be a nice floral, I think, and I'm going to, oh no, I actually haven't got that bit open, I don't think. Let's have a look here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I do want to make it floral. I'm just trying to remember what I'm doing here. So I'm going to click on that polka dot layer. When I use my mouse in Photoshop Elements and just tap on the spotted area, on the right hand side, the layers panel has got this blue highlight on the patterns mat. And then when I move this floral, and I'm going to just release it over that spot. Now, you see here, it's covering up my whole layout. There's no stress at all here. Exactly what it should be doing. So we're just going to go Layer, Create Clipping Mask, and now it's only in that blue spotted area. Now, if you're ever worried and thinking, oh, but what if I put something in the wrong spot, or anything like that. Let's try that. We'll put something in the wrong spot. Okay, so now we've got this brown floral. I've just moved it up here and it's covering up my layout. And when I create a clipping mask, it's now covered up my birthday cake. Okay, so first thing to know, undo is your friend. Edit, undo, edit, undo, it's completely gone. Or another way to do it is in our layers panel, I can just pick up that brown thumbnail and drag it down to where I want it to be. But honestly, I find the easiest thing probably for beginners is just delete it and try again. So I want this brown floral to be where this salmon kind of colour is. Just going to click on the salmon layer and then move the brown on there. And then, again, our favourite, create clipping mask. And then it's clipped it to that spot. So what we're doing here is we're using Debbie's design and we don't have to think. We're just placing our elements on the page and making them fit the template. So it's really easy and all you need to do is choose which papers you want. So we're going to just add our final couple of pieces of paper, screen area. I'm going to drag on a floral again. I've used a lot of florals here. I love flowers. Why not? And we're going to go to layer, create clipping mask. So all I've done so far for this whole page is just drag on an item and then create a clipping mask. So the only thing we're going to do differently is I'm going to drag on a journal card. That's my journal card here. Same thing, go back to my page, scroll down in my photo bin and pull this journal card over, drop it on top of this cream area and move it over. Now, this journal card is slightly big for what I want. So I've got a couple of options. I can just resize it, which I think I might do. Yeah, I'm just going to grab one corner and resize it. Now, when you're resizing things, if you grab a corner, Photoshop Elements is pretty smart and it will make sure it doesn't get warped or distorted. If you do happen to get it distorted, again, you never need to worry. You've always got your undo. You can click, or down the bottom here we've got constrained proportion. So it keeps it all in proportion because we don't want to have warped and strange looking flowers because you know that wouldn't be any good. So here we go. We've just resized one corner of this little card here. So I'm going to show you that again. So I've just dragged the journal card in, as I have with every layer, and it comes in at the standard size that the designer has created it to be. And we're just going to take that corner and resize it just by dragging my mouse. Okay. And now it's just covering up Grandma's head here, so all I need to do, excuse me, is in my layers panel, just click and drag it down so it's underneath Grandma. Yep. And then this little cream part has appeared again. I'll just delete it because I don't want it. And that's the thing with templates. If you don't want anything included, if you decide you don't like this scallop thing or whatever, you can just delete the layer or hide it using this little eye icon. So it's looking pretty good so far. We've got all our template, all of our photos in the template spot and our papers clipped. And in fact, if you just put a title or some journaling, it would probably be fine just how it is. But we're going to keep going because I like the fun stuff as well. So for me, the fun stuff is all that pretty little bits and bobs. So the first thing I'm going to do is put on that apricot button that we talked about before. And I'm just going to click and drag that over. And you'll notice that it comes in the middle of the page. Just excuse me, I'm just going to grab a drink of water.
Sure. It's great to see you putting this together.
So all we need to do is we've put this button in and it's appeared in the middle of the screen. We're just going to drag it over. Now this is when I'm just going to click delete and delete those other bits of the template. Our button's on there now. And while we're down here, let's add a fun little ribbon. So again, I'm just going to click and drag this ribbon on. It'll come in the middle of the screen. I'm just going to move it over here, drag a corner and make it smaller. So it's the same process really for every single thing you're going to be doing. It's opening the file that you need, and in this case, to make it faster for today, I've opened everything in advance that I want to use, and just dragging it straight onto our page. So what else do we want? We want a little rick-rack here, pulling that on, moving it down to where I want it, and I have this little saying, drag that on, move that down. Now this one's hiding a bit, so I can just move it in the layers panel, drag it towards the top. I'm just dragging in my layers panel, and that's moving the overhead transparency from the bottom of the pile up to the very top of the pile. So imagine my enjoy your day is hiding under a pile of papers, and I'm just picking it up and putting it on the top using the layers panel. So on the right hand side, your layers panel is in the order. So the things that are at the top of the list are at the top of the pile, and at the bottom is your background. So I don't need any of those here. Looking pretty good. And what else do I need? Well, I think we're getting there. Just going to pull on a little heart here, because why not? Add a little heart here. And another bit of ribbon. And all of this is just the pretty fun stuff. To be honest, what we could do is not even worry about some of this embellishing. If you're just starting out, it's totally fine to just put the papers and photos together, and you know, you could just delete all the other layers, or click that little eye icon and hide them. Because I will say it was looking pretty cool. So now let's, I'm just going to zoom out. So if you ever want to see your whole layout, you can click on the zoom tool, which is in the top left, and then just click fit to screen. So the last thing we need here is, two more things, a bit of journaling and a title. So this template already has journaling, so I'm just going to double click on this text area. Now it's going to give me a little caution to say there's a font missing. That's just because fonts are different on each computer. We'll just click OK. I'm going to choose Travelling Typewriter Font. You can choose whatever font and font size you want. It's just like you would in Word.
In fact, we had a question about how do you make sure that the font is appropriately sized for the layout or any of your elements.
I like to use size 14 points.
Me too.
I won't say size. 14 points. Because that looks pretty good at 8 by 8. Here we go. Let's paste that in a few times, and let's pretend that's our journaling. Yeah, I think that prints out pretty well. Let's have a look. This is an 8 by 8, and the font is quite readable. And of course, when it's printed out at full size, it looks great as well. It's not huge on your page. If you ever want some help with the sizing of things, you can always click on View Rulers, and mine's in centimetres here because that's what we use here in Australia, but you might want to, yours will probably pop up in inches if you're in the US. So that's always really handy if you're wanting to know, oh, how big is this ribbon? Because it, you know, something might be 5 inches and that's a bit big.
Well, and somebody was asking that ribbon along, if you have a ribbon along the bottom of your photo and it's too long, how do you shorten it?
Okay, so shortening it, that's how we use a selection tool. So here we go, here's some ribbon here. If I wanted to shorten this pink one here, just move it to where I want one end. I'm going to use this rectangular marquee tool, click and drag, and I want to select how big I want it. So I want it to finish behind this pink heart, so I'm just going to select till halfway through the pink heart. So this is dragging from the top left to the bottom right, and you can see this kind of spotted striped line. People call it marching ants. And then I'm going to click on this button which says Add Layer Mask. At the very top of my Layers panel, click on that. Magically, that extra part is gone. So let's try that again on a different ribbon. Let's trim this one down.
I never knew that. I would always go cut something off. But this way, the great thing about this is it's non-destructive. You can always get it back.
Yeah, you can change it, or you can just hide that mask. So this is easy for anyone who's got Photoshop Elements about 7 or onwards. I think, I don't know when they introduced masks, but anything in the last few years. So I'm going to click and drag over my apricot ribbon. I'm going to use my my layers panel to just check I've got that correct layer selected.
So that's the ribbon with the white dots on apricot.
Yep.
It's layered right behind the ribbon.
Polka dot. Yep. So let's zoom in and we'll see this happen. You'll notice on a bit on the right, we're going to cut that off by just clicking on this Create Layer Mask or Add Layer Mask. And voila, it's clipped and snipped. And as Debbie was saying, you can always bring it back by shift clicking on the mask. But I wouldn't, or you can just click on that little black mask icon and delete it if you want. So that's pretty much it for the embellishing, and we've got this little date spot down here. Just going to double click on here, and 18 June 2016. I'm going to change the font and click the green check mark to apply any changes. In Photoshop Elements, it gives you that big green tick, or the cancel no entry sign. I don't know what you call that orange, that red thing. I always call it a no entry thing. No. It's cancelled. So if you like your changes, you press the green. If you don't like them, you press the cancel. Or, as always, you can always do undo if you don't like it. Now, the very last thing I'm going to do is add a title. So I'm just going to select the layers here. There's this little paper piece title here. I don't want any of that. So I can just click on each layer and press delete. That would be the easy, simple way to do it. Or if I want to do it all at once, I go to the Layers panel, click the top most layer, scroll down, click the bottom while holding down Shift and press delete. Oh, that should have worked. Here we go. Press the delete button. There we go. And I don't want that either. And then I'm going to pull in my title, which I actually haven't got that pulled up for me. So
And for
I
anybody
have to
who's new to
find.
digital, just like your paper scrapbooking supplies have alphas, so do digital scrapbooking supplies.
Yes, they do. And I've got to remember what this was even called. Prove them wrong. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't pull that up earlier, but I'll just show you. That might take a while.
And I'm kind of curious how many people here have ever digital scrapbooked before. How many of you are totally new to this idea of Photoshop elements, and how many know a little, how many know a lot? So if you get a chance, put it in the question box and let us know.
That's funny. I must be looking in the wrong spot. It's okay. So let's do this.
We've got a lot of people for who this is totally new.
Great.
A few people who've used it a little bit.
So now I'm just going to turn off this other layer, which is the here layer, just using the eye icon. When I say turning it off, I'm just hiding it. It's invisible now. And then you can always bring it back if you want later. So what we've got here is when we say alpha, we mean pre-designed, almost like those letter stickers you might use on a scrapbook page. So I've got these all separate, and in the same way you just drag them onto your page, and it's a real pity I can't actually find them right now, but it's okay. I'm just going to select them and drag them onto my page, and you'll see it comes in one at a time. Do the next one, drag that on. Luckily Lucy's just a short title, so this won't take long. L-U-C-Y. And Lucy loves to spell her name L-Lucy-Y. She's 2.5. So, okay, so now they've all come in to my page, just like every single other thing we've created so far. Just turn off this scallop here. And, you know, I can move them around as if they're letter stickers. And I'm just simply using the Move tool, clicking and moving them around. Now, if I want to line them all up neatly, which I tend to do because I like things neat and orderly, I'm just going to hold down my Shift key and click on each letter. And then I'm going to just go click on this Tool Options panel, which is a fun way where you can get a bit more power, do a few more fancy things, but this is the first time we're using it today. So you can see Photoshop Elements has a lot of power, but you can keep it super simple and still create a fun page. So we're going to just click bottom, which will align it to the bottom. There we go. Now they're all lined up. I'm just going to click on the L and use my arrow keys to just move them along. And the great thing about using the arrow keys is, of course, they stay neat. When I've got it how I want it, I'll just shift click here. And even Photoshop Elements can spread these out for me because they're all a uniform width. I can just click Distribute Centers, and you can see it all spread them out for me. I'm not a total fan of how that is, so I'll just use my arrow keys and move them all around till I'm happy with how it looks. And that is our scrapbook page. So make sure you save your work. That's what I have to remind everyone and myself a lot. And then we've saved it, and we can always open, change absolutely anything on this page. And you want to know something that's really simple and easy. If I want to go ahead and print this page, all I need to do, File, Save As, And instead of this PSD, just click on JPEG. Click Save. Make sure it's all the way up to the right here, maximum quality, okay? And that's going to make a copy of my page as a flat JPEG, which is a photo format. So any photo printer, Snapfish, Shutterfly, any persnickety prints, anyone can take that print file and print it for you at the 12 by 12 size. Or you can even get away with uploading that to a photo book and printing it out smaller. A lot of people get hung up at this stage. They're thinking, oh, I should resize it. Look, to be honest, when you're creating your first pages, just keep it simple, print it out. You will absolutely love seeing your pages in print, and that's what inspires you. So don't let it get all fancy on you. That's the simple way to get it ready to print, and then anywhere that you can print a photo, you can print that JPEG file.
So Louise,
yeah, so now...
Where did that menu come from, Louise asks? I think she means...
Which...
Louise, do you mean the one...
The tool options? So the tool options panel, so we have down the bottom here, we have our photo bin, and alternatively you can have the tool options.
Oh, she meant the one you used
and
to
you just click on that.
Title letters. That wasn't such a, was that a menu or that
yes,
was just more...
Yes, so that was to make the titles all aligned. I was using the tool options at the bottom. Hopefully that's what you're talking about. If not, let me know.
All right, so it depends
so
on
I'm sure
what
there's tons of questions there.
Depending on what you click on at the bottom, different menus pop up.
Yeah, so there's two options. There's your photo bin, which is everything you've got currently open in Photoshop Elements, or your tool options, which are specific to that tool you're using.
Okay. All right, we have a couple of questions, but they might be more advanced. So I don't know where you're headed, what your plan is. So I'll tell you, we had a question about changing embellishment colors and shadows. I don't know if you wanted to handle that now or wait.
Yeah, well, I can talk about, for sure, I can talk about some of that. So with shadows, people like to add shadows to scrapbook pages to make it look a bit more realistic. So I tend to use a set of shadow styles that I purchased from One Little Bird at
and so styles are just like they're another digital product, just like you can buy papers and little hearts. You can also buy styles, which let you make things look.
Yes, and we can load them up, and I've got tutorials on that kind of thing. But just to show you the effect, I've got a button here. I'll add the buttons shadow style by just double clicking on that. Yeah, there's a shadow. You may not, I'll zoom in quite far, but you may not be able to see that. Let's add something to this wood veneer heart. Wire.
And so for anybody who's brand new to this idea of adding digital shadows is a little bit, it gives your page that more polished and advanced kind of look, and I guess they're not too hard to add nowadays, right? And they make it look more real.
It's optional. Flat ribbon shadow, there we go. I should actually just turn on the show names option, and then I'd be able to see what I was doing. And then there's a paper shadow for this little piece of paper, and say ribbon, curled ribbon, string shadow. So these, it's funny because these shadows are several years old now, and they have names for products that we don't use. Like they don't have any washi tape shadow, and they have wire. I mean,
so
who
can
puts
you
wire
guys,
on their pages
can a lot of you guys see how that ribbon, it looked really flat and it didn't look real, and then Melissa added a shadow to it, and now it's got dimension like a piece of ribbon really would.
Yeah, let's just undo that. So you can see a little bit of shadow, bit more of a shadow, and it looks like it's floating almost now. Yeah, so that's, as for recoloring, to be honest, I don't do that a lot. It's simple enough to do. I have a tutorial on my site for that, which I can totally link up. I'll just make a note of that. But I don't do that often because there's just so many supplies, and honestly I can usually find the colour I want. And I don't get too fussy. I mean, you'll notice that the pink on the cake is a bit of a more blue tinge to the main pink I'm using. I'm okay with that. I can always, you know, I can live with that being a little bit of a different pink. But you can always recolour if you like. But I find there's so many digital supplies I don't really need to. Just add a tiny shadow to this journal card too.
And I want to note, so Melissa started this with a template. In other words, I said, hey, this is an arrangement that I like to use, and I just put blocks down for her to use. But all of our templates at Get It Scrapped, we've got like 180 of them now in the membership, there's shadows already on all of the photos and blocks. So when Melissa clipped things to it, there already was a subtle shadow. We just use, you know, the built-in Photoshop shadows, and there already is a subtle shadow, you know.
You can see it over here with this little edge here.
Yeah.
There's some shadows there. And that's the great thing about using templates. You can just use what's already there, and with Debbie's, the ones that Amy creates, they're super high quality and they always look great. I love using them myself. I'm a big fan of templates. Because all you need to remember is just clipping your layer, create clipping mask, and you're halfway there to a new beautiful scrapbook page.
And you can go to the layers template and turn off those shadows, is that true? Like if you didn't like the shadows or not?
If you don't like the shadows, all you need to do is go to the layers panel, and anything that has a little FX has a shadow attached. So let's try something obvious with that cream paper here. Okay, so where it says green matte, it's got a little FX, and I'm going to right mouse button click, and then I'm going to click clear layer style. And now, I should have zoomed in.
And that was that bright floral, that white, that cream floral print that has no shadow.
Let's zoom in there, and then we just, yep, now it hasn't got a shadow, now it has. Undo and redo are your friends.
So I'm wondering if anybody's, does anybody feel like, oh my gosh, I missed something important and I'm totally lost? Is there, you know, like we'd love to make sure that you understand if you wanted to go off and start to learn about this and take care of it. Are there any questions like that? Like Melissa's working in Photoshop Elements. Is that true, Melissa?
Yes, that's right. Photoshop Elements. And the process I've showed today works in Photoshop as well. You don't have a photo bin, but you just open up them and drag them in. So it's a very similar process. And yeah, the techniques I've shown are pretty much the same. They work for anything from Photoshop Elements 6 onwards. And yeah, anything from Photoshop Elements 11 onwards has the same looking interface, so it's pretty easy to follow along. If you have a recent version, you might have got one with a scanner, printer that you've purchased over the last few years. They used to bundle Photoshop Elements. Or you can get a 30-day free trial to give it a go yourself.
And what version did you say you're using?
I'm using Photoshop Elements 15.
15,
which is the current version.
And Rebecca wants to know, could you show her how to clip a mask one more time?
Sure. So let's try it with this photo here. So when I've dragged the photo in, it's the full photograph. It's not cropped down at all. Just click, make sure it's above the layer I want to clip it to, which in this case is photo 1 in my layers panel. And I'm just going to click on Layer, Create Clipping Mask. And it's now clipped down to the size of this grey area. Then I can always just kind of adjust it, move it across or around.
So Cassandra said she never knew about the styles. Thank you. Kathy says it's been really helpful. Lyndon's learned a few things each day while researching this. Laureen is, no, was it Laureen? Yes, who is lost, which I understand that if you're totally new to this. And Sandy's asking about good sites for digital supplies. And Jackie said, okay, let's go back to Laureen being lost. And Jackie said, by spending the last hour watching, I learned that digital scrapbooking is way beyond my skill level. Do you want to address those two?
Yeah, so I understand if you're not a confident computer user, maybe digital scrapbooking isn't for everyone. That's totally fine. But I guess the best way to think about it is to just think about it in bite-sized chunks. Today I've showed you how to create a whole layout because, you know, we want to get a nice end result. So there's an even simpler way to start digital scrapbooking, which is quick pages, and I cover that in my class for digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners. And in that class it's really bite-sized. So if you want something so you're not feeling like you're drinking from a fire hydrant, that's the class you want. But in terms of today, all you need in terms of Photoshop skills is understanding the basic idea of you open up your photo files. If you can open up your photo files, if you can open up the scrapbook supplies you need, all you need apart from that is just dragging and dropping. So you just simply drag your paper on and clip it to a mask. Now, the page we've started on today has a few elements. You could totally start with a blank page and have fewer elements, which I think would be the less confusing way to do it. So I could just simply drag on my background paper.
I'm going to make you the presenter again.
And pop on 1, 2, 3. So this is the super simple version of that page, which would be putting one background paper and just resizing 3 photos. There's no clipping, and then I could just chuck some text on there, click and drag to create a text box. You know, and that could be your scrapbook page. If you're used to a certain look with paper scrapbooking, trying to replicate that in digital when you first start could be challenging. But if you want to start super simple, I have a lot of people who I teach in-person classes and online where they find that starting really simple is a way to feel like they can achieve something. So all I've done in this page is simply click and drag on my photos, no clipping, no layers. There's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. Got my background paper, got my photos, and I can add my journaling. I don't even need a title. And you could still save that and print that at home or print that online.
And then
so if it seems...
Lyndon said, patience and practice as with everything in life. And Alice said, I've watched a few tutorials, but now with this she understands the concept of what to do. And now she feels like she could actually try it.
Well, that's super. I'm glad that's helpful. And yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of different levels of skill here, and I mean, if you're confident using your computer and you're confident about finding your digital photos on there, I think that you can give digi scrapping a go. For sure, it can take a little bit of thinking, and that's why I teach classes, because honestly, it took me months to remember how to do a clipping mask. Because of the way I learnt, which was someone showed me their shortcut, which wasn't very intuitive. So I understand what it feels like to feel a bit overwhelmed, and so in my classes we go through things super step by step and super simple. So today I've been going a little bit faster than I would in a class, just
so we have a bunch of questions. Can I show do you want to just tell people about your class that I had briefly showed, and then we'll come back to all these questions?
Okay, sure.
Does that sound good, or do you have a better?
Yeah, that's
Or are
totally
you able to
fine.
show your class? So Melissa does have a class, a
Yeah.
beginner class, and I have for years, I've recommended people to take first classes with Melissa. Whenever I get an email from somebody that says I want to learn digital scrapbooking, I send them to Melissa, and I highly recommend her. And I'm guessing, do you have some kind of warranty with that, Melissa?
Yeah, I absolutely do. So for everyone who's today in this here today, I've got my special offer on my digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners class. It goes through creating a scrapbook page. It gives you the template, a quick page, and all the supplies you need. All you need is a photograph. And yeah, you don't need anything else apart from what's in the class, which is really good when you're first starting. And now I do have a warranty. I totally give you a no questions asked money back guarantee for 30 days. The reason you might want to take this class is if you are intrigued by what we've gone through today and you want to have something a little bit more succinct, a little bit more structured. I've got professionally edited videos that will give you crystal clear instructions on what you need to do, and you also get a handout which has the written step-by-step. So that makes it really easy if you're someone who likes to have something by their computer to flick through as they're doing that. Plus, of course, you get personal help from me. I answer emails and I help you. I've been known to record videos for people specifically addressing their questions, because what helps you also helps everyone else who's learning today. And as a special bonus for everyone who purchases the digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners today, I'm going to also throw in my other favourite class for people just starting in Photoshop Elements. It's photo editing for absolute beginners, so that even if you decide maybe digi scrapping's not your thing right now, you can still learn how to use Photoshop Elements to make your photos look brighter, crop them to size and print them out for using for framing, for putting in photo albums or paper scrapbooking. So I'm going to chuck that in as a special bonus for you all, so you can get started in whatever way that feels most comfortable for you.
And Lori,
So the class...
Lori's here. She said she's taken your classes and they're all great. Melissa makes it easy.
Oh, thanks.
It makes it easy by following step by step. Don't be afraid. Anyone can do it. It really is fun. And Alice wants to know,
and
do you have an affiliate link for Photoshop Elements?
Yeah, well, Adobe doesn't do affiliate program at the moment. I think I might have an Amazon. Yes, digitalscrapbookinghq.com/PSE. That's it.
Digitalscrapbooking.com. Wait, what is that?
digiscraphq.com. Here, I'll /PSE.
digitalscrapbookinghq.com/PSE. All right, I'm sending it to everyone.
Okay, super. Have to remember.
All right.
I think that might be an Amazon link. Yeah, super.
So yeah. Do you want to see if we can roll through these questions in about 10-15 minutes? Do you have another 10-15 minutes?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so can you change the shape of your photos?
You can change the shape of your photos. The easiest way I find to do it is to just clip them to a shape. So let's show you how to do that. Let's create a love heart. So I'm going to click my shape tool, and then I'm going to click custom shape, draw my little heart here, and then guess what I'm going to do? Exactly what we've been doing the whole time. Click on the thumbnail, drag my photo in, layer, create clipping mask using my move tool, and just going to resize it. There we go. So you can totally change the shape of your photos. There's heaps of other ways to do it, but this is the simplest way, I think.
Okay.
And you just see me there. I've just resized that actual shape as well.
Um, so Shelley is doing heritage family albums, and are there templates for that style? And that kind of goes with another question about, do you have recommendations about where to get products?
Yeah, so I do. I have, I usually shop myself at Sweet Shop Designs, and if you go to digiscraphq.com/shop, I might just show you this tutorial. Oh, that's not actually the one I want. Anyway, so I like to go to Sweet Shop Designs, the Lily Pad. There's a variety of different people. There's some who focus more on heritage type of kits. I know, who is that Debbie who did the book templates? Oh, she's been
I don't know.
the Kiwi lady.
The Kiwi lady? I
Is it
don't know.
Sean?
But
Oh,
Jana says
yeah.
that,
Well,
Jana says O Scraps has a lot of vintage things.
yeah. So there's specific designers who create template books for all kinds of purposes. So yeah, I would just shop around. The best way to probably do it is Google your, heritage photo book templates and find it that way. I've recommended several stores in this blog post how to shop for digital scrapbook supplies, and I'll send that link over for the replay page
Okay,
for you as well, Debbie.
What is that? Okay, how to shop for digital scrapbooking supplies.
Yeah.
Let's see. And Shelley, I think, yeah, any template can be made to look more heritage depending on the product that you use with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jeannie says, do you always use commercial templates, or can we do our own layout design?
You absolutely can. And if you want to learn more about that, I have, strangely enough, a class called Digi Scrap from Scratch, which shows you how to go through from the very, starting from a blank layout. And I show you 4 layouts, how to do that from the very basics.
And that's how I like to work. I like to do my own designs. Well, sometimes I'll use a template, but I like to, for me, that's part of the fun, is just arranging it the same way as with a paper page. You
Yeah,
can do
absolutely.
what you like.
I do that a lot. You can. I like using templates when you get started because you don't have to think about the design, but if you love design, you probably would better suit doing it yourself once you've got the hang of things.
Another question
and what
is,
I showed,
oh, sorry.
That quick page I just showed you then, where I just dragged in, it's the same process. You just drag in your elements onto a page that doesn't have pre-designed spots for everything.
And somebody asked if there's free embellishments available. And I was thinking most stores have a little freebie area, don't they?
Yes, yep, absolutely. So I love Flergs, flergalicious.com. Megan Farrow, she's a fellow Aussie, and she designs digital scrapbook supplies, and she absolutely has a ton of freebies that you can get from her site.
And you know what you guys can do also? We'll put some links with this recording, but also if there's something you wanted to know that we didn't cover, come over to the Facebook group for Get It Scrapped and just tag Melissa there and say, hey, who was that person with the freebies, or where'd you get your shadows from, or what was the course you talked about? In case.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'll be in there. I'll be in there for sure.
And she'll let you know. So Kathy said, the only worry I have is the same as with my paper supplies, where to put all the goodies and how to find them and combine them. Seems like Melissa had already selected hers and had them all lined out. I'm wondering how long that work typically takes.
Okay, so a typical page like the one I've showed you today would take me an hour to complete. That includes looking through my photos and my supplies. I tend to use just one scrapbook kit for my page. A digital kit is much like a kit club where you have pre-coordinated papers and embellishments. So I just choose the one. I use everything from that one kit. And you can kind of see in the 2 pages I showed you, this one's obviously a heart, love, sweet theme. And this is more of a shabby chic kind of theme. Yeah, so all up, it usually takes me about an hour if I'm not rushing and I'm just taking my time and doing that kind of thing. I keep pages pretty simple though. And when I first started, it took me a lot longer than an hour, just because I was still learning. But I didn't have anyone with printed handouts and helping me to learn. So hopefully you won't spend a month doing one page like I used to back in 2007.
You know, for some of us, it's really fun. You're going to see whether it clicks with you or not. For me,
yeah, and it doesn't have to be
it.
for everyone. It's a fun thing. Debbie and I both love digi scrapping, and if you give it a go and see how you find it, you might fall in love.
Yeah. I notice a lot of people who hang out at Get It Scrapped. Some, not a lot. There's people who try both. I mean, it's really split. We really have, I feel like we have about half paper, half digital. You seem to see more things from the digital people because you can be more productive with digital, and it's easy to share
It's
online.
easy to upload, yeah. You're already on the computer ready to upload. I have several classes on organising supplies, and I'll send a link over to those as well.
Okay, great. Yeah,
but
Melissa, if you want to not only share them with me to put with the replay, but also just share them in the Facebook group, all your links, that would be great.
I'll jump over later and do that.
Let's see, have I missed any questions? Because there were, you know, lots of people here and lots of questions coming in, and I'm thinking I got them all, but I'm not sure. I'm looking back through everything right now. Let's see. Yeah, people were happy to learn about the layer mask for cutting something away. Jacqueline took your digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners. Nita's still learning. Christy said, I do quite a bit of digital, but I wanted to see Melissa because I love her.
Oh, thank you.
Pam says, name of the Facebook page. The Facebook page is the Get It Scrapped community. You can also find the Facebook page at getitscrapped.com/FB group, and I'm going to put that link in here for you right now. And you can always, if you have a real problem with something, you can always just respond to the emails that I sent out earlier today and ask me. Let's see. Oh, Tracy wants to know if you hold in-house classes.
Yeah, I do. I have in-person classes. I used to do them on a more regular basis. In Perth, Western Australia, if anyone actually lives here. And occasionally I'll jump on and do a live webinar as well for my class purchases.
Yeah, because we had somebody here who's from Perth. I don't remember if that's Tracy who asked or not. Hey, and Kathy said that her husband watched this with her, and he's a techie, so it was interesting to him, and he's all excited about her getting into this. That's funny. My husband from way back, he was like, well, of course you'll do this digitally. That was years ago. And I was like, of course I will not. I love paper. But anyways, Kathy said, first I have to do Calvin Ball, and then I'll get into digital.
Yeah, and it's fun, and it's addictive. And look at this giant pile here, guys. This is just the pages I've printed in the last few years. So there's 14 photo books here that I'm really happy with, and there's a lot more that I haven't printed. So I probably spend on average 2 hours a week doing scrapbook pages, but I love doing events and stuff like Layout a Day or Calvin Ball, so I go in fits and starts too. But you can definitely be super productive, and the great thing is your supplies never run out.
Yeah.
You can use them again and again. But of course there's always more pretty ones to buy too.
I'm showing you guys my book. So I print 8x8s like Melissa, but I just print the photos and then I put them into post-bound albums that I buy.
Yeah.
And I have all my paper layouts are sitting back here in baskets because I want to scan them and print them 8 by 8.
Yeah, it's good. And just to say, you don't have to go one or the other. I mean, in this 12 by 12 album here, I've got digital pages printed, but I've got literally like a baby suit here. And I've got, yeah, I have it in the scrapbook album because I lost my daughter's going home suit and I don't, I'm like, I'm not doing that
You're not
again.
going to lose it again.
So then I've got birth cards and I've got everything. I've got everything in one album. I've got digi pages, I've got paper pages. And you can't even tell, like that paper, obviously, that's a digital page. And to be honest, when you're flicking through, you can't even tell the difference. And I don't mind them all jumbled in together. Although that suit does make this book very bulky. I need like a mini vacuum compression thing in here.
And so Alice said this would make it so easy to create a gift for family and grandparents. And it really does, because you can just duplicate the pages. And when I make gifts, I put them in album. I put them in those little albums like Melissa does when I do gifts.
Yeah, so these are baby books, and I printed 4 copies for each grandparent and great-grandparents, and a copy for ours. And you know what I even do nowadays? I print a copy and then proofread it in person, like when they're on sale, and then if there's any mistakes, I just let the children actually have the copy with a mistake in it, and then they can, you know, it doesn't matter if they scribble on it or rip it up or whatever, because they love looking at it, and this size is great for little hands.
Do you print your pages in glossy or matte?
I've done both. I prefer matte myself. I actually prefer print press processing, but not many people do that, so I just get a matte photo print.
That's great.
Usually for my
And Cynthia said, speaking of scanning pages, what type of scanner do you use for 12 by 12? For me, I scan them in 2 pieces. So I always made my paper pages to be about 11 and a half or 11 and 3/4. I never made them 12 because then I knew they would fit the height of a scanner. So I do them in, I'm actually waiting. So right now the way I do it is in 2 pieces and then I stitch them together with Photoshop. But I'm hoping that somebody comes out with a more affordable scanner.
Yeah, I mean, we've got an A3 scanner here because we're on the metric, you know, ISO paper sizes. Ours are 12 by 12 anyway. So, because they always give you that bit more space. So, it works.
And then Stephanie wants to know, do you print on your own printer or via a photo processor like Shutterfly?
I print at home on a plain piece of paper just to do some proofreading, or I typically, the final copy is, Shutterfly or Snapfish. Often Snapfish is more affordable here in Australia.
Is it? And I use Persnickety because I just print mine 8 by 8, so I use Persnickety.
Yeah, the 12 by 12s I've used Persnickety because they have a flat rate international shipping. So yeah, when I've got 100 or so, I'll order from them.
And then when I do for gifts, I use Shutterfly. Just, I don't know, because I know how to use it. It's expensive though, I find. I mean, for me, the most affordable are these print the 8 by 8s with Persnickety. I buy credits ahead of time and just put them into album. So, all right. Any other questions from anybody? A lot of you guys have hung in here still. We got quite a few people still here an hour and a half later. Lots of thanks for you, Melissa. Thank you, thank you, thank yous. So, this is great. So, Melissa, do you want to finish up with any final advice or recommendations or anything? Any final words to our...
Yeah, so everyone, thank you so much for coming. I've really enjoyed doing this. I love teaching live when I get the opportunity. It's super fun. So I'd love to recommend you all go check out the link that Debbie's got for you for the special offer for Get It Scrapped customers. Everyone who's attended this webinar, you'll get you can get a great deal on my photo editing for absolute beginners and digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners classes, both together, which is a super deal. So what I recommend is whether or not you go ahead and purchase the classes. The best thing to do is start small, start simple, get a good tutorial, which is where my classes come in, and follow it along. And give yourself time. Don't think that it's going to be something that you'll learn today. I mean, some of you might be whiz kids and you can go and scrapbook now. That's fine. And if you need any help, digitalscrapbookinghq.com. That's my site. I'm always more than happy to help. If you have questions, I'll probably have a video tutorial to help. So the main thing you want to remember is just keep your eyes focused on the prize. I'd worry about putting in your photos and your journaling, and then as you get more confident, you can start playing around with more of the fun embellishments and supplies.
That sounds great.
So yeah.
So the link for her class is digitalscrapbookinghq.com/GIS intro, which I did send out to everybody in the question box here, and which we will put with the replay, and we'll get you the replay out tomorrow morning. First thing tomorrow, we'll get you, you'll get an email from me with the replay. But if you're not a Get It Scrap member, that replay is only going to be there through Saturday. So be sure to check it out before Saturday ends so that you can get it. If you're a member, you can see this for as long as you want. And if you miss the replay and have questions, you can ask Melissa over in our Facebook group.
Yes.
Or I'm sure you can email her through her site. You know, you could just use her contact link. Yep. Melissa. You know, because I'm always sending...
help at digiscraphq.com is...
Yeah, go over there. All right, so... And Kathy wants the exact kit that you used for the first layout that she saw with the kiddos. She loves the inky splotch.
Oh, okay. I can link you up to that one as well. I'll send some links to Debbie, and I'll also link up in the Facebook group a little bit in a few hours' time. It's just my morning here, so...
I'm going to go to bed. You'll take care of the links, and tomorrow morning I'll send things out. So you've got a few hours to do that. So
super.
Sounds great. All right, thank you everybody who stayed here for so long. Thanks for everybody who attended. It was fun. This is the first time we've ever done a live, demo class like this before. So I appreciate Melissa digging in and putting this together for us and being brave to do it because, right, we've all got bandwidth and technology and it all worked wonderfully. So Melissa, thank you so much for all your preparation for this so that all the people who've been asking me about this for the last the last year can get a look at it and see what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to have this here as a resource for your members and to get your feet wet a little bit and yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Margaret said, great class. She's in Esperance. Is that how you say it? It's in Australia.
Esperance.
Esperance, West Australia.
Yeah, that's how I say it. I used to live in Kalgoorlie, which is only 4 hours north of Esperance. That was our beach.
Just 4 hours.
Yeah.
All right, Melissa,
minutes from the beach.
Thank you so much. And when I get up tomorrow, I will get your replay out to everybody.